Jaya Gopi Janavallabha Girivaradari Jaya Gopi Janavallabha Girivaradari Yashodanandana Bhaja Janaranjana Yashodanandana Bhaja Janaranjana Jamunatira Vanachari Jamunatira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Hare Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Prabhupada, 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 Jaya Jaya Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
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 Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Narayanam Namaskritam Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Nato Jayamundire Nastaprayashu Bhadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavati Uttama Shloke Bhakti Bhavati Naishiki. Hare Krishna. Good morning, everyone. Today is a beautiful day because we are alive and we have this opportunity to worship Krishna on this day. There's a beautiful prayer that one can chant in Sanskrit when they first wake up in the morning. And the translation is basically like, all glories to Krishna. Thank you so much for making me awake. I am awake. I am not dead yet. Please let me use this day in your service. So that's how we can think every day. And today we are reading from Srimad Bhagavatam. We are reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 10, Chapter 16, verses 51 to 54. So I will chant the Sanskrit for all of the verses. We won't do call and response because of the online factor. Aparadha sakrit bartra sodhavya sva prajakrita shantum arhasi santatman mudasya tvam ajanata. Aparadha sakrit bartra sodhavya sva prajakrita shantum arhasi santatman mudasya tvam ajanata. Synonyms: aparadha, the offense; sakrit, just once; bardra, by the master; sodavya, should be tolerated; svapraja, by his own subject; kritaha, committed; shantum, to tolerate; arhasi, it is befitting for you; Santa Atman, O you who are always peaceful; Mudasya, of the foolish one; Tvam, you; Ajanataha, who does not understand. Translation and purport by the disciples of His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki. At least once a master should tolerate an offense committed by his child or subject. O supreme peaceful soul, you should therefore forgive our foolish husband who did not understand who you are. Purport: because of their extreme anxiety. In this verse, Kaliya's wives mention the same idea twice, that the Supreme Lord should kindly forgive their foolish husband. The Supreme Lord is Santatma, the Supreme Peaceful Soul, and therefore the Nagapatnis suggest it would be proper for him to overlook at least this once the great offense committed by the ignorant Kaliya. Text 52. Anugrinishva Bhagavan pranams tyajati panagaha strinamna sadhu sochanam pati prana pradihatam. Translation: O Supreme Lord, please be merciful. It is proper for the saintly to feel compassion for women like us. This serpent is about to give up his life. Please give us back our husband, who is our life and soul. Text 53. Videhi te kinkarinam anhusteyam tavajya yachtrarayanu vai muchate sarvatobayat. Now please tell us, your maidservants, what we should do. Certainly, anyone who faithfully executes your order is automatically freed from all fear. Purport: The surrender of Kaliya's wives was now complete, and Lord Krishna immediately gave them his mercy, as described in the following verses. Text 54. Shri Shuka Uvacha Itam Sanaga Patnibir Bhagavan Sama Bishtuta Murchitam Bhagna Sirasham Visasarjan Grikutanai. Sukadev Goswami said, thus praised by the Nagapatnis, the Supreme Personality of Godhead released the serpent Kaliya, who had fallen unconscious, his head battered by the striking of the Lord's lotus feet. Purport. According to Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, Lord Krishna, upon reaching his decision, immediately jumped down from Kaliya's hoods and stood before the serpent and his wives. We should remember that when Lord Krishna executed these pastimes, he was just a young village boy in Vrindavan. Now we will pray to understand. Om Agyanatimirandasya Jananjana Shalakaya Chakshurun Militam Jaina Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manopishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Bhagavatam Mayam Darishva Parandikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yura Parakamalam Shri Guru Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunatham Vitam Tam Sajivam Sarvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padam Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakam Vitamscha He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dina Bandhu Jagapate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostite Tapta Kanchana Gorangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sude Devi Pranamami Hari Priya Pancha Kalpatarubhascha Kripa Sindhubheva Patitanam Bhavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prishtaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swaminite Namine Namaste Saraswati Deve Gaudavani Puracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatade Shatarine Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadara Shri Vasari Gaura Bhaktivinoda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Jai, I'm so grateful to be with all of you all this morning. Thank you for tuning in from, as I have learned, all over the world. There's people listening to these classes, and we're so grateful to be able to try and serve you in some small way for our own purification. So these verses are just so beautiful. The Nagapatnis, they are pure devotees of the Lord, actually. And in these verses, they are taking shelter of Lord Krishna and begging him to release their husband, who has made a great offense to Krishna and the residents of Vrindavan. As stated in the purport to verse 31 from this chapter, I'm just going to read the purport. According to Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, Kaliya's wives had been disgusted with their husband because of his demoniac activities. So they weren't always praying on his behalf for him to be delivered. They had actually been thinking, if this atheist is killed by the punishment of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, then let him be killed. We will become widows and engage in the worship of the Supreme Lord. But then the ladies noticed Kaliya's facial expression and other bodily features. And because they knew him so well, they understood that Kaliya had indeed taken shelter of the Lord within his mind. Seeing that he was manifesting symptoms of humility, remorse, regret, and doubt, they thought, just see how fortunate we are. Our husband has now become a Vaishnava. Therefore, we must now endeavor to protect him. They felt affection for the repentant husband and severe distress, right? It says in the purport to one of these verses that they actually repeated themselves twice because they were feeling such extreme anxiety because of his miserable position. And thus altogether they went into the presence of the Supreme Lord. So although they say in one of these verses, please give them back their husband who is as dear to them. It says exactly who, let me pull up that verse. Please give us back our husband who is our life and soul. But when they were thinking that their husband was an atheist, their husband was not their life and soul. They were not making that prayer. They were like, it's fine if he dies and we'll just get to worship the Supreme Lord. But when they saw that he had become a Vaishnava and he had surrendered to the Supreme Personality of Godhead, now they're saying he is as dear to us as our life and soul. So the Nagapatnis, they had actually placed the seed of bhakti in Kaliya's heart by telling him about Krishna. So, during their lives together, right? Like they have a happy little snake family, right? They've had many little snake children together and they've been married. But they were always telling Kaliya about Krishna and the glories of Krishna. But Kaliya had not taken their advice to worship the Lord. However, that seed of bhakti had been placed in their heart. It wasn't until Krishna's feet were on Kaliya's head and Krishna had nullified Kaliya's Vaishnava aparad to Garuda that seed sprouted and Kaliya realized who Krishna was and inwardly surrendered to Krishna. In his wives, they knew him well and they could see that he had had this change of heart. So again, when we were reading the pastime of Nalakuvara and Manigriva, we had this theme, right? That Madhura Kandamani says we can only receive the mercy of the Lord when a devotee of the Lord intervenes on our behalf. And that bhakti causes bhakti. So we can only receive the seed of bhakti, which can sprout into pure devotional service by receiving the seed by someone who has bhakti. And I remember it was so beautiful. We had a sangha, a home program actually. We had this home program initiative at Bhakti Center. If you are interested in being in a home program or hosting one, you can contact me. We're at this home program and we actually all went around and shared how we received, when we felt like we received that seed of bhakti in our lives from a devotee who had it. And every single one of us who has come to Krishna consciousness, we have that story. And one of my best friends has this story of one time her spiritual master quite literally picked up a seed, like this big from the ground, that like these seeds turn into trees or something. It's a specific kind of seed, and literally gave her the seed. like quite literally as a gift. And she felt like she had also quite literally received the seed of bhakti when he gave her that physical seed, and she still has that seed to this day. So not all of us might have actually received a physical seed, but we most certainly have received the seed of bhakti from one who has it. So Kalia was able to receive this seed of bhakti, which then later sprouted when he was ready to surrender to the Lord, because the Lord was dancing on his heads and purifying him. He received that seed from his exalted wives. So each of the demons represents an anartha, and Kalia represents pride, deceit, harming others, and cruelty. And these demons need to be given up by the devotee. So sometimes we think that before we became a devotee, we were actually a better human being. And when we become a devotee, we realize all of the bad things in our heart. And we think, oh my God, I've become worse. But it's actually, it's not that we've become worse at all. We've actually become better. This process of Krishna consciousness works. It's just that we weren't aware of the dirty things in our heart before. Have you ever, like when you start cleaning a room, you're like, oh, like my room, it's like, it's not so dirty. Like, yeah, there's like some dust, but it's like, I'm doing pretty well, right? And then we start cleaning. And when we're cleaning, all of the dust comes out and all of the clutter comes out. And we think, oh my God, I've created a monster, like it's like a tornado in here. But it's not that it's getting worse. It's actually just that we're actually getting everything out in the open so that we can then clean. So Krishna's dancing on Kaliya's hoods represents him getting all of the poison out of Kaliya. When Krishna dances on our tongue, when we chant his holy name, all of the anarthas in our heart will come up. We will see them. And it's not something to be afraid of because it's part of the process. It's Krishna's mercy. And when Krishna dances on our tongue and these anarthas come up, that's when we have to take shelter of Krishna to remove the anarthas. And he will remove the anarthas. So Krishna first let Kaliya have him in his coils for 2 hours, right? It said earlier in the chapter that Krishna is literally in his coils for 2 hours. And then when Krishna saw that the Vrajbasis were literally on the point of death, worrying about him, they were about to leave their bodies, he expanded his body so that the coils slackened. And then he got free from the coils. And then Kaliya looked at him. And then Krishna pounced on Kaliya. And then Kaliya tried to bite him. But Krishna moved around him. And he's moving and Kaliya is trying to follow him, trying to bite him and trying to kill that. And as they were doing this chase, gradually Kaliya became fatigued. And then Krishna jumped on Kaliya's hoods and began dancing upon him. And through this dancing, gradually Kaliya is becoming weaker and weaker and weaker until he's reduced to struggling for his very life. And he was throwing up everything and exhaling fire. Kaliya was still very angry, and he tried to raise one of his hoods to kill Krishna, but Krishna captured it, kicked it, and danced on it. So that's boom, boom, bah, he's just destroying him. And then Kaliya is vomiting blood and eventually begins to understand within his mind that, okay, clearly Krishna is the supreme personality of Godhead, and he surrenders unto him. And it's at this point when the wives intervene. So when all of the poison had left Kaliya's body, he was able to receive the Lord's mercy and surrender. So once Krishna dances on our tongue and removes all of our poison, right, that's in our heart, and then we will be able to really chant his holy names. So that's our process. Krishna dances on us by us chanting his holy names. So if we want all of that gunk in our heart to be out, we have to chant. We have to follow the process. We have to welcome Krishna. Please come and dance on my tongue. Because see, Krishna's names are non-different than Krishna, isn't it? So he's quite literally, when we're speaking, quite literally dancing on our tongue. And in the perfection of Krishna consciousness, one can actually realize that Krishna actually reveals himself in his holy names. He gives his darshan in his holy names. So how much do we have to take shelter of the holy names? Sachinanda Swami, he says that everyone breathes oxygen, right? And it's by breathing this oxygen and drinking water that we maintain our life. So for the devotee, our very oxygen, our very water, our very sustenance is chanting Krishna's names. We have to make it that, not, Prabhupada said, not that I chant my 16 rounds and then bada bing, I'm done for the rest of the day and I can do whatever I want. But actually chanting 16 rounds is just the beginning. We should be chanting Krishna's holy names all the time within our hearts. So in verse 51, the Naga Patnis are saying that Kaliya did not understand who Krishna was. And this is why we have to read Srimad Bhagavatam to understand who Krishna is so we can surrender unto him. And they are saying that a master forgives their child or their subject at least once. So Krishna should forgive Kaliya. When I was reading that, I was thinking that actually Krishna, he's forgiven us innumerable times for turning against him, right? We've been turning against him for time immemorial and literally millions and millions of lifetimes. But even though we've been turning against him, he remains within our hearts as Paramatma, waiting for us to turn to him. This is unconditional love, right? It's said that the closest thing to unconditional love that we see in the material world is the love of parents for their child, right? Because, a good parent, even when their child does all nonsense, they might punish the child, they might try to correct the child, but ultimately they love their child so much that they never reject their child, right? They always forgive their child and give their child another chance. So this is Krishna time, that's like the love that Krishna has for us is like the love of a parent times so much, like we can't even conceive. We've done so much. We don't even know everything that we've done. And yet he continuously not only forgives us, but out of his love for us, sends his servants, sends his pure devotees to give us that seed of bhakti so we can come back to him. And the Nagapatnis themselves surrender to Krishna in these verses and ask him what they should do. And this asking of what they should do is a symptom of surrender. When we are willing to do what Krishna and the spiritual master tell us to do, that is a symptom of surrender. And I have to tell this really beautiful story. So I just got back from India 2 days ago. My first time in India since COVID. And we were in the last 6 days of our trip, we were at the Govardhan Eco Village. And Gauranga Prabhu, who's a very senior disciple of Radhanath Swami, he was giving a talk. And he was actually talking about the history of the Govardhan Eco Village. And the history is something amazing. Like, it would take me like an hour to tell you the whole history. But basically, Gauranga Prabhu revealed something very intimate in his talk. Radhanath Swami, he had a vision to create an eco village. And he wanted it to be like a new Vrindavan. Like, he wanted to actually make it completely self-sustainable, have it be a retreat center. And he wanted to recreate all the different major temples and pastime places that exist in Vrindavan in this place. And they actually first acquired some land near Pune, and they tried to develop it for many, many years. And, you know, for one reason or the other, it wasn't working. And then Radhanath Swami said, okay, we'll give this land up, and we'll get a different land that's actually closer to Mumbai that'll actually be better. And everyone was thinking, you know, this isn't working. Why are you doing that? You know, why are you changing? And Radhanath Swami just stuck to his vision. And then they were like, okay, they got the land, and then they were like, who's gonna do this service? And so they called all of the more new brahmacharis to a class, and they were talking about, you know, sustainable living and eco-friendly farming and surrendering. And they're all like, why are they telling us about this? They're all brahmacharis in the city in Chaupati. And they're like, well, we're telling you this because we would like you to go and live at this plot of land and develop this project. And, you know, these are all like city people who are doing city preaching. The last thing that they want to do is move to this place, but they all go and they all surrender. And it's a long story, but Gauranga Prabhu, he was sharing in this talk that actually he didn't believe in the project personally himself, Gauranga Prabhu. He didn't believe in Radhanath Swami's vision. And he didn't think it was going to happen. And he said that it actually wasn't until 2020, which is just a couple of years ago, that he realized it wasn't a mistake, and that the Govardhan Eco Village was like really important project and a success. Now Govardhan Eco Village is so beautiful. They've literally constructed the 7 major temples of Vrindavan. They've made the Yamuna River. They made a Govardhan Hill. They brought Giriraj Shila there. You can do Govardhan Parikrama. They created Barsana. It's just incredible. But the point of telling this story is that even with that, Gauranga Prabhu didn't believe in Radhanath Swami's vision. But even though he didn't believe in Radhanath Swami's vision, he still executed the order that Radhanath Swami that had gave him to develop the project. And he actually put his life and soul into developing the project, even though he wasn't convinced personally. And the brahmacharis that went there, like every year they were like, we can't tolerate this anymore. This is too difficult. We're going to leave. And it wasn't until they installed Radha Vrindavan Bihari, who are the most beautiful deities, that they were like, okay, we'll stay. And now they're like super happy there. Some of the brahmacharis were telling me about this when I was there. And the point of this story is like, that is the power of following the spiritual master's order. And we have to trust the spiritual master's vision. The spiritual master vision will happen with or without us. we can just choose whether or not we want to be part of it for our own purification and advancement in Krishna consciousness. So I just thought that was a really powerful story. And I appreciated how honest Gauranga Prabhu was, because I think we can all relate to that, of sometimes being like, I don't know if this is going to work, or I don't know if like my time, my energy is like paying off. We can be so fruitive and like so result oriented. But it's actually like the results are going to happen because it's the pure devotee's desire. But we don't even have to be worried about the results. All we have to worry about is showing up and doing our service with our full heart as an offering to Guru and Krishna. And it says here in the Nagapatni's prayers that when someone executes the order of Krishna, they become free from all fear. So when we execute the order of Krishna, when we execute the order of the spiritual master, the result is we become fearless. Our anxiety gets taken away. You know, if we're feeling transcendental anxiety is a different story. That's something that's like a spiritual emotion. But if we're feeling like material anxiety, then we can ask ourselves, okay, I'm feeling some material anxiety. And someone who is executing the order of Krishna, they're not supposed to feel anxiety. So like, what part of myself am I not absorbing in Krishna's order? And how can I absorb myself more in Krishna's order? And then that fear will go away. And at the completion of their prayers, Krishna jumps down from Kaliya's hoods and releases him. And then what we are going to hear next in the coming verses, I don't want to spoiler alert, is actually Kaliya's prayers, which are basically a repetition of his wife's prayers to Krishna. And then the instructions that Krishna gives to Kaliya and his wives, which are super beautiful. So since we only have 5 minutes left, we'll stop there and we'll open it up to questions, comments, corrections, reflections from everyone.
Great class, Champakalata. Great class. We're choosing to participate in Krishna's miracle. Jeffrey Eckler, are you choosing to participate in Krishna miracle?
Yeah. Every day.
Every day. Nice.
I really like the point about the Nagapatni's prayers changing based on the change that they saw in Kaliya. That's a very good point. And I did have a question about this section of verse 52 where they talk about it is proper for the saintly to feel compassion for women like us. And in the Sanskrit, it's sadhu shochanam, who are to be pitied by saintly personalities. I'm wondering who else fits into that category of those who are to be pitied by saintly personalities, and if I'm one of them.
I love that. We all are. It's not just women, it's anybody who's not a pure devotee. Yeah, anyone who needs the mercy of the pure devotee, it fits into that category. So don't worry. We all are qualified in our unqualifiedness.
Yeah, that's us, Jeffrey Eckler. Thank you. Any reflections? Anybody? Questions?
Yeah. Yeah.
Can we bring Akeshwara closer to the mic?
Yeah.
I just want to ask him to clarify something. Did you say that Krishna danced on Kaliya to the point of Garuda?
I said that Krishna danced on Kaliya's hoods and purified him, and that purified the offense that he had made to Garuda.
Oh,
Garuda being a devotee of the Lord. Yeah. Give? It's give.
yeah.
Give. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes, yes, yes. Nice to see you again. Do you have anything?
Hare Krishna, everybody.
Hare Krishna Gear. Good to see you.
It's Gira to say.
Gira.
Yeah. But I mean, as I guess, as a relatively new to Krishna consciousness, there is still a part of me that resonated. Well, part of me resonated when you were talking about the Radhavat Swami's project in India and how people were, suspicious about it because, I've only been around for 2 months, but from my rational mind tells me that it's one thing to be a guru and the other a successful businessman. So sometimes, I guess it's still good, even though the intention is pure, to step back and see if this is actually working out on paper. So yeah, that's all I guess I'm gonna say. I just took that bit with a grain of salt, that even though you may believe wholeheartedly in person's integrity and intentions, we all are human, we all make mistakes, and it's good to reflect, especially in this modern world. Life used to be easier.
Yeah.
Not as many variables.
Yeah. Do you mean, just to make sure I understand your point, do you mean that like your mind is like saying, okay, it's one thing to be a guru, but then it's another thing to be a successful businessman, and do the two line up?
Like where's the overlay? And when someone is
Right.
deciding to bring the word of God into their professional activities, which is I'm currently trying to do. So
Yeah.
I'm a reporter.
Yeah.
The reason I'm here so much is because I feel the warmth and love from the messages that I'm spreading. So I'm trying to figure out how to integrate it with my career, how to tell the world about these values without like freaking anybody out and thinking that I'm trying to convert. So the same way with with organizing a retreat, or Adi here, I only knew Adi for 3 weeks, but I'm really vested in his project because I see this is the type of work that has the best of both worlds. So I guess all I'm gonna say, my reflection is, but just in English you say trust but verify. And it's actually a very old Russian proverb. So it's a very old Slavic proverb, and it doesn't mean that, do not like suspect everybody, but yeah, trust, but verify. So, that's all from me. Hare Krishna.
Yeah, I really appreciate that. That's super good points. Like your mind, and as a reporter and as someone who has a career in the world, is trying to, you feel the warmth from these teachings, you feel the positivity from these teachings, and you're also like wanting to make sure that it lines up of making a positive difference in the world. Your kind of business mindset is like, okay, like how is this kind of translating to real world experiences, and how can you, as someone who's in the world, still be in the world and share the teachings with others without freaking them out, thinking like you're trying to convert them or something. Yeah, that's super beautiful. Thank you. Okay, now we get to see Radha Muralidhar, Gaura Chanda ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai.
Champakalata Sakhi Devi Dasi Ki Jai. Okay. Cameras on, please, dear devotees. Stop your car. Okay, this is it. Thank you very much, dear devotees. It was nice spending this morning hour with you. Sundaranandaji, Bruce, Amrita Kishori, William, Hemangi, Yogeshwari, Suzanne, Sharmila, Pink Yogi, Angel, Dana Krishna's Radharani, Beam Das. Bhakta Huga put something very nice in the chat. He said that there's another example of someone having full faith in their guru's instruction. That was our own Srila Prabhupada. By his grace, by his mercy, we're all here today. So Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Srila Prabhupada's guru, Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur ki jai. We should have full faith in our spiritual master, and everything will happen. It will happen. So let's choose to participate in that miracle of Krishna consciousness instead of going on with our little tiny self-centered, pitiful life. Let's join the miracle. Okay, Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna. Nice seeing you.